I wanted to welcome you folks. This is kind of my conning tower. And I'm going to give you your winter tip about your tire pressure sensor. The little light goes on the dashboard. Remember what I told you about boobs, idiots? Okay, we're going to talk, and then I'm going to go off my reservation again. 9 chances out of 10, whoever put your tires on, if they had a moisture, a dryer on their airline when they filled your tires, it probably was full. It probably wasn't working right. Uh, I actually worked at a body shop. I went down the guy's throat because it was throwing moisture and it was taking longer in the winter for the primer to dry. Or you were getting streaks in the primer, and then he almost blamed me for because it came through the paint job. But let's not go there. 9 chances out of 10, wherever you had your new tires put on, okay, they weren't using a dryer on the airline. I'm sorry, I have my brain. Remember what I told you about this? This is our government's agenda. This is what they want to get rid of, okay? Did you ever think that Joe Biden, Trump were just, it's all a game, good cop, bad cop, to get this surveillance state going? You saw all those fires out in California. Nobody's been held accountable. Politicians stealing billions of dollars. They got Epstein 9 ways to Sunday. Oh, we're not adult enough to accept, or they might endanger some witness or somebody's privacy. I don't understand that. Around here, when they arrest them up, nothing's private. There's no sensitive data. They take that son of a bitch before a judge and they crucify him. Sometimes they even lie. They've tried and convicted people here in Pennsylvania for crimes they never committed, and they did time for it. I know that factually. They did time for it. Hillary, the deep state. I believe now, with the ass that Trump made out of himself. My mom, we didn't go to Trump, number one, because of the weather, because of the cold. My mom's 88. They have a common room where people were actually throwing things at the TV. He's tooting his horn. Always lowering interest rates for people that have no money to fucking buy anything. You got to create an economy to have an economy. People have no money in their pockets. People aren't buying, not to mention a new car. They don't want this new junk. They don't want the surveillance state in their automobile. I sure as hell don't. I'm not going to buy a new one. And I was watching something, starts with a J, JPC Auctions. It was Punta Gorda, Florida, or whatever. I was watching $50,000 cars. They're selling Mercedes and stuff. It was selling for $3,000 and $5,000. It was embarrassing. And even over the Mustangs brought the most prices, $30,000, and the next thing to it were 25, 30, and 40-year-old pickup trucks. They sold for astronomical prices. Corvettes were selling. I think it was a pace car Corvette. It sold for like $5,000, $6,000. I was like, the economy is seriously ruined. And they had some beautiful older cars, Buicks and stuff like that. I mean, there was even an Olds 442 that went well below. I mean, they were selling those cars for about maybe what the paint job cost and some of the parts. I mean, those people lost their ass big time. And there was even a big row on that auction because people were pissed. They weren't even coming near the reserve that the people had for those antique cars there that they had. The bidding prices were $10,000 to $20,000 below the reserve. It was the highest that those cars went, and a couple of the owners pulled their cars, and then the auctioneer is like, "Yeah, you talk like that again, we're going to remove you." Well, it wasn't the auctioneer's fault. I can say that it wasn't the auction; it's the economy. And that gets me back to the surveillance state. They just about burned down California. They killed Charlie Kirk. Do you think after 9/11 that this is the Bushy whammy? We're going to beg for the government surveillance state? I mean, they already You already have no rights. You're driving down the road. The cop knows who you are. They're reading your license plate. Got AI readers in stores, facial recognition on the street corners. Did you ever think that maybe this is just a plot so people, they beg for surveillance? Okay? Because this is what they're out to get rid of. The penny's already worthless. We're not getting our true change at the stores. And then I was showing you those signs. In case you missed my other video, I should have brought this up on my phone. I'm doing this in between as a public service announcement. Yep, my phone does everything but what I want it to do. I don't care about the dad that did what. They're doing this again. Okay? You're not going to have money and you're not going to have freedom anymore. And you're going to buy a new car, you're sure as hell not going to be able to afford a payment and a subscription. Your freedom is going, people, as we know it. They're after your property. They know people can't pay their bills. Pennsylvania's been hit the hardest. But hearing my mom's description, and I was not there, but she said people got up, left, and if not, they were throwing shit at the television. And I guess the staff there at the old folks home was kind of pissed about the mess. That's a good way to throw an election, but I don't think they're really worried about this next election. Is what is telling me is Trump is going to establish the surveillance state. People are going to lose their properties, and then you're going to lose your rights. First, second, all the way up to the 14th and 15th Amendments. You're just going to be X'd out of humanity. It's going to be a communist takeover. And we're already seeing communist Democrats getting elected. I mean, all we have to do is have an idiot like that Newsom, and we're going to be living like fucking China. You're going to own nothing, and they're going to tell you to be happy that you have nothing in the street. And those yarmulke-wearing scumbags, they're going to go to that beachfront property, especially California and Hawaii, that they burned out. They're going to be living the dream because they're the ones that are actually going to take over the country. Remember what I told you? China's going to be the producer, the Jews are going to be the broker. And that's where they're going with this. And that's why they're out to get rid of your freedom and take your property. That's what they're after. And that's what we have to fight to the death, unfortunately. That's why there were civil wars. That's what caused the Boston Tea Party. That's what caused all of it. Because when they take over and they tax you out of existence and they take everything you have to exist, which is what is going, you're not going to tell me that Trump ain't part of this now. I was thinking the other way, but after hearing what patting himself on the back about helping the Jews, everybody else, and worrying about Ukraine, what about Americans? They can't afford food. Oh, well, we'll ratchet the interest rate down a little bit. I would have throttled that Muppet. Powell would already be in prison for the ignorance. He would be prosecuted. But that's what I'm saying. They have Epstein, they have Hillary, they have Billary. You know, they got Doc Dopey and all of them. Doc, Fauci, Dopey, Christopher Wray. They got all of them. They were uncurious when the accusations were thrown up in their face. And I should say, not accusations, but the facts of their corruption and their dereliction were thrown up in their face. And they sit there, oh, we can't tell you there's an investigation. Well, let me tell you something about investigations. I served as a PMC, private military contractor, although I sustained a substantial rank. One thing I was accused of, and it was thrown in my face, was Article 88 under the UCMJ about abusive language and descriptive comments. My facetious nature, that's part of my Amish side, that comes through, and especially in the face of screwballs. And I was guilty, okay? But when they're talking about raking our military and telling these people to willfully disobey orders, I believe that's Article 92. I'm not sure. I believe you're not gonna under anybody's watch, especially If you're an enlisted guy, you might escape with just a court-martial, maybe some time in the brig, slap on the wrist, but you're definitely going to get your ass thrown out. But if it's an officer, you're going to pay heavily. But this is the fracturing of our country. First of all, taking over our sustenance. They've already taken over the food supply, and the last 40 years have been one merger after another that one of those yarmulke-wearing scumbags owns every corporation and controls it. Since when should our farmers have to go on welfare? They should be well paid, well cared for by our government, because they're our producers. Oh, well, we don't need that. China's making us, they're making stew in a pot, and, forming it into cute little things that you eat. That ain't the way we want to ride with this country. And it's getting worse by the day, and it's getting worse by, like I said, do you think that this murder of Charlie Kirk, these assassinations and these threats like I was receiving now as a YouTuber, JD DeLay had a video, he was pretty much alluding to the same thing today. This seems like it's going towards a surveillance state. Since when do phone numbers just disappear off your phone after they called you? That's your government. Your government's into stuff like that. Okay? And why would a high-speed hacker even waste their time on trying to intimidate a guy like me? They got better things to do. They got money to get. They're not getting anything out of threatening a guy like me. Pissing me off, making me a little nervous. Now, I think this is our government. I think they're ploying and plying for a surveillance state is really what I think is going on. And as far as what Trump came out of his mouth yesterday, he's not promising getting the American people some money in their pocket so they have money to spend so the economy gets back going. Oh, well, we'll talk about things next year. And you're going to give some people some of their money that's rightfully theirs back in their pocket. Well, when things keep going up, they're just going to be breaking even. He was here. He must have saw the prices here. Maybe somebody should have took him to a grocery store when he was here. Because, like I said, he talked really butt-fuck stupid about a prosperity we're not going to see. Because remember what I told you about accountability? You're not going to have prosperity if there's no accountability. And this government's way off the rails. They're out and about as a criminal organization. I can't see any more. This now seems to be a global syndicate. I don't think it's limited to the White House. Not as far as what I'm seeing. This is a takeover of us as a sovereign people. Thank you for watching my videos, guys.